I recently had the chance to play an early access copy of DONTNOD Entertainment's upcoming spiritual successor to Life is Strange, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, and wow have I got a lot to say. Keep watching to find out more details about the game, including its release date, how DONTNOD have evolved their storytelling formula, and most importantly, do I think it will outperform Life is Strange Double Exposure? Before we get into this video, a couple of things. First off, most people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. If you enjoy these sorts of videos, why not subscribe for more? Second, DONTNOD were kind enough to reach out to me with an early access copy of the game. However, I'm not being paid to promote the game, so I'm free to give my truthful opinion. And finally, there'll be plot spoilers ahead for Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, as well as Life is Strange. With that said, let's get into it. First off, let's talk graphics. How does the game look? Even though I played on an alpha version of the game, which is subject to change upon the game's official release, I was blown away by the visual fidelity of Lost Records. Most striking of all was the way the game utilizes lighting to create mood and feeling. DONTNOD have always put lighting at the forefront of their visual identity, and Lost Records is a great example of that. The game's warm tones paint a stunning visual picture for the player, and we're seeing the in-game models react very well to their lighting engine. Nothing looks too bright or too dark for the scene, and there's no weird shadows going on like we had in previous games. It has this overall solid, clearly defined identity. I could pick any screenshot from any frame of the game and immediately associate these visuals with DONTNOD's signature style. The game's assets, like player models and objects, feel like an evolution of their classic Life is Strange style. They certainly haven't leaned into the paintbrush aesthetic that the original games are known for, but instead there's this hazy, semi-realistic style. The game feels like it could take place in reality a lot more than say Life is Strange 1 or 2, but it lacks the cutting realism of Tell Me Why. Everything is just a tad softer and warmer. It's high fidelity, but without being overly photorealistic. This actually ends up working really well because it separates the game enough from their previous work while still feeling like it has its own consistent theme and identity. This kind of art design really immerses the player in Velvet Cove, and the game isn't shy about showing it off. Sun-streaked tree canopies, gorgeous vistas, and cozy, cluttered spaces all have this feeling where they're not quite real, but not quite fake either. It's all very nostalgic, like you're thinking back to the warm summer days of your childhood. The environments in Velvet Cove feel alive and lived in, less like a set piece and more like a real space that real people inhabit. There's messy rooms, littered trails, junk boxes, and all the small details that you could really spend hours looking at. It gives us so much context to this new world, and I felt like I could really let go of the real world for a few hours and breathe in the atmosphere of the mid-90s. I was born in 2001, and I still felt an extremely strong connection to the visuals in Lost Records. You can tell it was born out of personal experience, as DONTNOD's writers would have been around the same age as Swann and her friends during 1995. The whole thing feels like a love letter to the mid-90s, and to fans of the first games who fell in love with that similar charm. The game's visual fidelity is only further boosted by its character models, which have been drastically improved from DONTNOD's earlier iterations. While games like Life is Strange 2 expanded on their facial animation capability, Lost Records is a huge jump for them. Characters feel far more lifelike and genuine than before, and the lip syncing has completely transformed how the game looks and feels. They're able to highlight close-up shots of the girls and their subtle facial expressions, and it gives the whole game a lot more visual fluidity. You can often tell how a character is feeling before they even say a word. Gone are the days of Max Caulfield smacking her lips together while a voice line plays. It really feels like these characters have life and charm to them, which we'll get into much later on. Usually, there isn't much to talk about when it comes to gameplay in these types of games. However, Lost Records switches up the traditional formula of DONTNOD's narrative adventure titles enough for it to be worth mentioning in this video. When I first loaded up Bloom and Rage, one of the first things I noticed was how much they changed how the player looks at items and interacts with their environment, and for the better. Now, instead of looking at 2D images of objects, we actually get to interact with them as 3D models and turn them over in our hands. You can rotate objects any way you like, and plenty of objects have unique interactions. You can open boxes, press individual buttons, turn the pages of a book, and see every detail of an object. This is a huge step up from what we've had before, and it really helps the game feel more alive and detailed. The game's dialogue system has also seen a huge overhaul from earlier iterations. Instead of linear, person-to-person conversations, Lost Records seamlessly integrates dialogue and gameplay, allowing the player to comment on things while they're walking around and interacting with the game's environment. Things they're looking at, ongoing conversations, or even just remaining remaining silent while other people talk. It's rare that Lost Records ever railroads you into a linear dialogue tree. The game just feels like it follows your vibe and where you want the conversation to go, and who you want to agree with. A character you've previously bonded with may be more likely to engage you in conversation and bring up certain topics, and other characters in the group may pick up on your favoritism if you're clearly choosing to talk to one character almost exclusively, and they might not be too happy about it. If the characters are having a conversation about music, for example, Swann can involve herself, and you can have some very real moments where the game throws some difficult social situations your way. Do you lie and pretend to know a lot about some bands your friends like, or are you upfront and risk telling them you're not really into music? Different characters will appreciate different responses, and you can definitely cater your responses to be a bit of a yes man at certain points, or just be yourself. As I found out though, Swann isn't a very good liar, so that's at your own risk. The dynamic of 4 people and of conversations that involve multiple people is something that's scarcely been done in DONTNOD's previous work, unless it's in a narrative cutscene that has a reason for it, but never before have you been able to pick who you'd like to respond to in a group conversation. And it's not like Swann is the only person with this agency in the game. These characters are teenagers and they act like teenagers. They'll regularly interrupt each other, change the topic of conversation, or go on tangents about things they like. And it's your choice whether you want to prompt these dialogues further, stay quiet, or interject with your own thoughts and opinions. It's a really refreshing take on the classic formula for narrative adventure games, and while I know some people might prefer the classic cutscenes of Life is Strange games, I found the blend between gameplay and dialogue to be really engaging, fun, and refreshing. But these aren't the only gameplay elements that have evolved. The way the player interacts with the world through Swann's camcorder is a massive game changer and helps every playthrough feel unique. Swann always has her camcorder with her, and the player can choose to pull it out at any time with the push of a button, even when they're talking to other characters. Filming with the camcorder feels fluid, fun, and easy. There was never a moment where I felt like it was intrusive to gameplay, and capturing moments from throughout my playthrough was both natural and really fun. I'm the type of person who takes a lot of screenshots as they play games, and so this just felt like a natural extension of my usual playthroughs. We're really seeing the world through Swann's eyes, through her lens. It adds an extra layer of characterization, as this game does prompt you periodically to use the camcorder. Swann's time in Velvet Cove is limited, and so is yours. You're on this journey together, taking videos and documenting your journey, and it flows really nicely, both narratively and as a fun gameplay element. What, who, and when you film also seems to influence how certain characters will talk to you, which ties in perfectly to the next thing I wanted to talk about. The characters you'll meet in Velvet Cove invite a familiar yet entirely new dynamic to the game that we've yet to see in any previous titles. We've had our fair share of duos and even a brief trio in True Colors, but Lost Records explores a quartet dynamic for the first time, with 4 main characters: Swann, Autumn, Nora, and Kat, all of whom have their own opinions, nuances, and personalities, while still feeling like they have a lot of chemistry together. They feel like a real group of friends in the era they exist in, like they could be completely authentic teenagers in rural Michigan in the 90s. First off, we've got Swann, our protagonist and the first character we're introduced to. We follow Swann through her final summer in Velvet Cove, as she intends to document the world with her camcorder, which is an extension of her love for film and cinema. Swann is a very similar protagonist to Max Caulfield. She's a massive fan of art, writing, and storytelling, both visual and imaginary. She's a little shy and awkward, but quick to make friends with the other 3 members of the Bloom and Rage gang. From the moment we're first introduced to Swann, the developers tell us so much about her just through her bedroom. Echoes of her hobbies, her insecurities, her desires, and her past all linger in her bedroom, which tells the story of her life and alludes to her future. Swann's family is leaving Velvet Cove for Vancouver, a theme we saw explored in the first Life is Strange game, but here it seems to be far more of a central focus of her character. While she seems excited about her move, there's a few unspoken moments where she seems to bond with Velvet Cove and its charm, and we get the feeling that she's not all too happy about it, especially losing her band of new friends. There's Autumn, the charming, enigmatic leader of the group, who's very thoughtful and sensitive. She's the one who seems to invite Swann to be a part of their friend group, and from the moment you meet her, she's just brimming with character and ideals. While Autumn certainly has her own opinions and isn't afraid to speak them, she's extremely considerate to Swann, especially when she's nervous about spending time with the group for the first time. We get the sense that Autumn is not the group's leader through being the first member or through force, but rather by being held in high regard by everybody else. She's still got her insecurities, doubts, and fears, but she's a person who wears her heart on her sleeve and doesn't allow the world to shake her or her friends. Nora, the group's fun-loving rebel, is about as close to Chloe Price as you can get, but unlike Chloe, Nora is far more carefree and outwardly kind to others. She seems to have some underlying issues issues going on in her life, but she's very proud of herself and the friend group that she has. Nora is a massive flirt, and she's very quick to tease her friends, even if they're a bit nervous about it. She's a proud stoner, loves pizza, and while she's a grungy, crusty punk, she's got a big heart and loves the silly things in life. If you chat to her enough, she'll even encourage Swann to embrace herself a little bit more and do some fun stuff with her. She's generally unashamed in everything she does, but there are a few moments where she reveals a more vulnerable, fearful side, and she's not scared of leaning on her friends for help. Nora's bond with Kat and Autumn is clearly very strong, and she's not afraid to be laughed at or teased, but at heart, she is still just a young girl who wants to feel safe and wanted, and when danger strikes, she's the first to lean on her loved ones for protection and comfort. Finally, there's Kat. This eccentric, pragmatic, and strong-willed member of the group is often overlooked, but honestly, she was easily one of my favorites of the whole bunch. She's got a lot of spirit about her and isn't afraid to contribute her ideas and talk about things. With Kat, you get the sense that she's got a lot of wild ideas in her head, but only really shares them when she wants to. Unlike Nora, Kat doesn't seem to fear adventure and danger. She's brave and badass, but where Nora excels at dancing around different social dynamics, Kat often seems to get caught up in her own fears and anxieties, making her a very interesting character to delve beneath the surface of. She has so many philosophies to share on school, life, dreams, yet there are some topics she's clearly uncomfortable or unwilling to discuss. I found that some of more Kat's interesting, introspective moments came from when I was speaking to her alone. She's got a lot of thoughts inside her head and isn't quick to share intimate details of her life without proper cause. Now, I could say so much more, but this video is already quite long for what it is, and for now, these are just my first impressions. I will say that I think DONTNOD is onto something great here, and I really can't wait to see more. So far, I've been blown away by Lost Records, and I hope it continues to go that way when we see the game release early next year. The game feels like a real love letter to fans of the original games, and when I played, I felt captivated in a way that I haven't in quite a long time. Do I think that this is the game that will rival Double Exposure, or even beat it? I can't really say. Double Exposure's marketing has been incredibly different, going to be a very different game to this. Bloom and Rage is trying to move further away from Life is Strange as a series, while Double Exposure embraces its identity. I don't really want to pit these games against each other, but I can't not compare them, because 1, they appeal to the exact same target audience, and 2, they're my only frame of reference. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really want to give a massive thank you to DONTNOD for reaching out to provide me with an early access key for the game. You guys are amazing, and I can't wait to see more of what the studio creates. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more Lost Records and Life is Strange content. If you'd like to get involved more, why not join my Discord or become a member on my Patreon? Links for everything will be in the description, and I'd love to see you there. With that said, I think I've said my piece. Remember to keep your VHS tapes clean, and have a nice day. Bye!